Good evening. It's Paranormal Science Lab Live. I'm Lisa.
I'm Kathy.
And we are talking to you from the very haunted Opera House on the Square in Carthage, Missouri. And we're going to talk about a few things tonight, but primarily the role of skeptics in the paranormal.
The good and the bad.
That's right. How are you doing, Kathy?
I'm doing okay. I'm sitting in a chair because I got a hurt back, but other than that, I'm in it for the get-go.
There you go. There you go. We actually have things going on in two places tonight.
Yes, we're a busy night. It's not a good time to be up with a hurt back, but we've got two locations with stuff going on tonight. So,
but
fortunately, one of them's here, and I'm just gonna stay put right here.
There you go. And then some of the rest of us are going to be over at the Prosperity School Bed and Breakfast in Joplin, Missouri tonight with a public tour and ghost hunt. And everyone's welcome to come on out. That'll be fun as usual. So that'll be fun. Now, I wanted to kind of say just as a shout out to our listeners who are in Europe that look for the Insight TV channel.
Yeah.
Because PSL, I guess, has officially gone international. We are on one of the episodes of the TV show Strange World, which is being aired in Europe, and I know the Russian Federation right now. I'm not sure what all countries, but it's on the Insight network. And the show's hosted by Alex Hannaford, who's worked with the BBC and a bunch of other things. And we are on the episode about the Hornet Spook Light south of Joplin. And so watch for that. It'll be fun. We had a lot of fun filming it. That was a year ago. Remember that, Benton? Yeah. So
yeah, and it's worth really watching, even though if you're not local to this area. I'm not from here, and this is a phenomena that really fascinates me. It's been people from all over the world have analyzed and come out here and tried to figure out what causes this happening, and nobody has been able to figure out what it actually is and why it's happening. And with modern science and all modern equipment, they still cannot say what causes this to happen. So, and it's been known around these parts
since the 1830s, since the trail adheres with the Cherokee Indians being relocated, yeah.
Yeah, those were the first written accounts of it happening, and it still occurs, and it's just a fascinating event. So if you have a chance to watch that episode, really try to tune in and see it, because it's something, really.
And if you do get to see it, let us know how it is, because we can't watch it here in the U.S. yet. So
yeah.
We're not sure when it comes here, so you'll have to clue us in how good or bad we did. So, and watch the other episodes. I've seen the synopsis for them, and when they were filming, talked to the crew about some of the places they've been and were going. They're going to places all around the world, from Australia to Europe, Canada, here, all over, and just some very unusual phenomena that I think it'll make good viewing.
And so. I do, and I really am looking forward to it coming to the U.S. because there's some really interesting things that happen all over the world, and it's really interesting to me that they're doing this all around the world, because maybe they can find a link to some of these unknown events that are happening that nobody can explain, and they're happening all over the world, and maybe if they could, with a scientific method, find out if these things are somehow connected, or maybe see some similarities, or find some kind of evidence to link them.
Exactly.
Which is really exciting that somebody is doing that, because that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is, and it's not very usual that we get to see things from around the world. I mean, we have a lot of paranormal shows on TV here, but it's all stuff here, so we get kind of insulated in things here. And I talk to some investigators kind of regularly that are in England, and they're kind of baffled by the approach of TV here in the U.S. for the paranormal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, we've kind of gotten used to the theory here that you have to have results shown every time, etc. And it seems that the view over there is, then that's not realistic, and you have to show times that you don't get anything.
Sometimes when you don't get anything.
And so it's kind of refreshing to see that there are other views.
Yeah, being a paranormal team that does public tours, I wish that the shows would do more of that, because it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally. We go to a location that normally has activity, and we don't really get much.
Yeah.
And then we have folks who paid money to come on the tour. They want to see something that's going to scare them or fascinate them or something phenomenal, and we don't have any parlor tricks. We can't make that happen. So
it's not a spook house.
When it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But on TV, it happens every time.
Exactly. So, I found it refreshing that is their view, and they're kind of appalled by U.S. TV shows, and it's funny because they're several years behind what they are seeing. From what I'm hearing, what's airing new
wait
over
till they
there,
see what's going on now.
Yeah, is 3, 4, 5 years behind
the demon trend.
Yeah, and so I don't even think that they've gotten to the demon of the week trend.
The demon of the week
and
trend.
So that'll be interesting, because I keep getting these messages. Is it really like that? Is that what people really think in the U.S.? So they're extrapolating, wondering whether the rest of us view it that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
We get a couple blinks on the K2, and we're like, yes, K2 went off. And, and people are looking at us like, that's, what is that? That doesn't look exciting. But we're excited about it because we don't have an explanation for what made that go off other than...
Exactly.
That it's something paranormal, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's sort of a good segue into
the skeptics.
The skeptics, and some people and some teams, I think, are almost rabid skeptic haters, that kind of thing. I don't think that's good. In fact, one of a good friend of mine who's been an investigator for years is a big skeptic, and actually he just messaged me, hey Jason, and I think that's a good standpoint to come from, is don't assume everything's paranormal,
right?
And really, I think that's we do that. We just don't label ourselves skeptics,
right? And it does get a little bit harder when you're in a location, such as the location we're talking to you from right now, which is one of our locations that we do a lot of public tours in. It's been featured on TAPS, and, there's a lot of evidence to support that there is activity in this building. So when we're here, if we hear a noise, something goes bang, bump, thump, whatever, we tend to think, oh, that's paranormal. When it is actually a really old building, too. So, it could be every little bump and thump. So it does get kind of hard when you are caught up in the moment. You're in a building that generally has a lot of activity, to kind of start to think that every little sound is a paranormal sound.
Just, for instance, those footsteps we're hearing. So,
yeah.
But it's
bitten.
It's bitten,
When last time we were in here, my daughter was walking across the floor, and Mr. Boots came running up on her and scared her half to death.
Right, and when we say Mr. Boots, we're not talking about a cat. We are talking about a spirit that is a resident here who often will follow people, kind of monitor what you're doing, and it always sounds like he's wearing cowboy boots on a wooden floor. So
yeah, and he likes to run up on people and kind of get really close and then stop. And you hear that boom, 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 and then you swear there's somebody coming up on you behind you, and you turn around and there's nobody there. But,
yeah, I mean, of course, it's kind of interesting that it's in a theater, so you kind of wonder, is someone just loving the dramatic?
Yes. Well, and in the case of skeptics, I know some people who are local to this area, and I have a friend who always says, every time we post something about doing a tour here, he always comments on our Facebook page and says, I've worked in that building, I've been up and down all through that building for years and years and years, and there is nothing in that building. It's all just hype. It's all whatever. Now, that's his perspective. And I don't really comment back to them or anything like that. I tell them, maybe you should come on one of our tours sometime,
Exactly.
And be here at night with the equipment. But you always are going to have those people who think that, first of all, they think we're getting rich off of what we're doing. Like, we're like, oh, they're just trying to make money off of fooling people. First, any money that we make goes towards the location. Mm-hmm. Number one, generally it costs money. Yeah. it's something we do out of the love of doing it.
By the time we have the extra expenses, and just the batteries alone,
batteries.
It's not uncommon to spend $30 or $40 a night on batteries.
Yeah, so there's no motive for us and for teams like ours to create something that's not real. We have no reason to do that. We're not making money off of that. And, the owner of this building, he spends a lot of time here, and he won't even come up into this part of the building by himself. So I think he believes that there's something up here because that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why there's plaster here, but there's nothing falling from above us.
Yeah, it's weird. There's sheetrock up there, and it doesn't have a hole in it.
Yeah.
But there's plaster on the floor. That's weird.
Anyway, sorry. Squirrel, I got distracted.
But, the owner of the building won't even come up here generally. Mm-hmm. Unless he absolutely has to. He will not come up here by himself.
In fact, he'll wait until someone's here to come up with him. In fact, the last two times he's been up here, including tonight, are actually when we were here, so that he's not alone.
Yeah, he doesn't like to come up here by himself. So, that's just...
And for every person that, has said, oh, I've been in that building, I haven't had any experiences, I've talked to people, and the owners talked to people who have worked in the building or just been in the building for, random things, say, even insurance appraisers and inspectors of the sprinkler system and things like that will be in the building for 20 minutes and come down and say, you do know that this building's haunted, right?
They come down, when Keith tells the story, he's the owner of the building, he tells it, they come down white as a ghost, like looking like, they saw something that scared them really badly. They come down, they say to him, there's something going on in this building, and he's like, yeah. And they'll tell him their experience, and
I think that's one of the things is that, when you have a number of people who, these people have no reason to make it up. They're not benefiting from it, and often are kind of embarrassed because they don't want to be viewed as spooky, crazy, flaky, whatever.
Mm-hmm. We have some locations that I won't mention the names of because they don't really do public tours there. And the benefactors of the buildings don't even want it public that they believe that there's something going on there.
Oh yeah, that's
they'll
common.
They'll have us come in and look around and document whatever we can find because they just want to know,
right,
if there's something going on there. So for their own good, but we can't do videos or podcasts from that location and say that we're there because they don't want it known.
Right, but it's because they're afraid it'll be bad for business or whatever, and we respect that. But I think that's the thing is anytime you whatever it is, paranormal or any other subject belief, as soon as you start saying, this is definitely what's going on, and just basically make that an assumption when you go somewhere, reason has left the building, and then that goes from being a researcher or investigator to being a fanatic.
Yeah.
And, it's no different than a religious fanatic, because reason has nothing to do with the belief.
Right.
And, there are some people who are skeptic enough that it doesn't matter what they see or experience, they're going to deny it.
Yeah, they could have a spirit walk right up in their face and go boo, and they're still going to say that somebody rigged that was...
Or it was just a house settling, it was light coming in the window, or whatever.
And I have a theory about that, and those are the people who are more afraid than anything. Mm-hmm. They have to believe that, because if they were to open their minds to believe it, that it was actually paranormal they couldn't handle it for whatever reason. If it's fear, if it's religion, if it's, whatever their personal belief is, they cannot admit that there's something they don't understand.
Exactly. But those people are just as important to what we do as believers.
It's true. And, then you have the whole aspect of the false technology, like the imaging, the computer imaging and computer graphics, and the kinds of things that they can do now that the average person can do at home from their home computer lays credence to the necessity for speculation.
Exactly.
You have to be a skeptic. You have to step back, and if somebody contacts us and says, I took this picture on my, my backyard or on my deck or, in my car or something like that, and do you see this apparition in the photo?
Or Bigfoot or whatever it is.
Yeah, and they send these things to us. We get these things all the time, and we share them among the group, and we all kind of look at it and go, well, what do you think? And quite often we think it's fake.
And maybe not even intentional on the person's part, but that they're interpreting something incorrectly.
Right.
Or, it amazes me too how many people, phone apps, they'll end up with something, and some will swear they didn't know the phone app was on their phone, or it gets texted to, someone texts it to them and says, hey, look at this picture. And I think that seems to happen more than anything.
And some of them are a lot of times they're pretty real looking, but from our point of view, when we get something like that, we almost have to take it with a grain of salt, just because there is so much technology out there to create these sorts of things.
And there are some that get cycled a lot, so it's getting to the point where you're getting pictures sent to us, and it's like, oh, I even know what phone app that.
I've seen that ghost in somebody else's house.
And so
that same ghost was in a whole other part of the country. That same face.
But and that has always fascinated me. Why there's a certain number of people that will go. They'll spend more time and effort coming up with a hoax for 15 minutes of notoriety or sympathy or whatever. That if they spent that energy actually doing something in the field, they might actually learn something. They might actually enjoy it more and might have more notoriety.
I'm going to tell everybody out there, if you are taking photos and you think you have something in your photo, take other photos. Take other photos from other angles. Take other photos from different, from farther away, closer. Just and have them be in the same time period, same day, same sun, same clouds, same.
Just take everything in a series of 3 when you take pictures.
Yeah.
If you make that a habit, then
because if you come to somebody like a group like ours with a series of photos, and there's something in one in the series that's not in the others, and we can see that there's different kinds of things we look for in those photos, but that does help us out a lot in determining whether it's real or not real.
Exactly. And the first question that they're going to get asked by us or most investigators is, well, what was in the frame before and the frame after?
Yeah, and do you have any other pictures from in that area, from other angles? And the reason we do that is because we also take photos on our investigations. And it's very easy to see something in a photo when you're looking at it later and think that you saw something, and then look at another photo from the same room in a different angle and go, oh, that was a smudge on the wall. That was a crack in a mirror, that we didn't see when we, looked at it the first time, but from a different angle, you can see it. So that's why sometimes we need to see other photos, because we know from our own perspective, our own experience, that it's very easy to get something. If we wanted to fake people out, we have tons of photos that we could put on the internet that would look like there's an apparition there.
Yeah.
And it's not. It just looks that way, but from another angle. It's not.
And to be honest, we probably publish less than 2% of even what we call evidence, just because we are very selective in what we decide we put out there. Because it's credibility, it's reputation, but what we put out there, we want people to look at or listen to and say, okay, that's reasonable.
And even so, we only put the evidence on there that almost cannot be disputed.
Right.
And even so, we get people who come on and say, I know how you did that, and it's like, we didn't. Is that Benton?
Was that you? No, that sounded like it was over here.
Yeah, it did.
Hey, Benton, did you hear that over here? Oh,
He's got his headphones in. He doesn't hear anything.
Heard a big thump.
I don't know if you guys heard that on the video, but we just had a big thump over here in the middle of a big empty room. This room that we're in is a huge theater. So it's big, empty, open space, really.
Yeah. But yeah, it seemed like it was right over here.
Which is nice because you can see a lot of areas. So when you hear like a big bang out in the middle of a big empty room, you can look very easily and see that there wasn't anybody over there making that noise.
Mm-hmm. Well, and another aspect, sort of the flip side of the skeptic, is there are people who not only believe, but they want to be haunted so badly that they will create it themselves, and we've seen that before.
Yeah, we have.
And,
it's almost like, I don't know if it's because of how popular the shows are right now, and everybody kind of wants to have their own ghost, like a pet,
pet ghost.
My own little pet ghost. And they want somebody to come out and confirm to them that they have their little pet ghost that lives in their house. But I don't know what it is, but it seems like a lot of people just really want to know or be confirmed that they think that their house is haunted. And you can almost get evidence, and in any place. There's gonna be something that's gonna show up on equipment just about almost anywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here's a question that may be a little controversial, and I'm throwing it out there to be devil's advocate, no pun intended. There's a lot of people who are skeptics of the paranormal, who are avid religious believers, and the funny thing, or the ironic thing, I find is usually their arguments against believing in the paranormal would apply just as much to religious belief. That they don't want to believe in it if they can't touch it, hold it, feel it.
But yet they believe in God.
In God, which is a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Or for those that say, well, you have the accounts in religious books like the Bible, etc. Well, but those are the same people who say, I believe those accounts because they're in the Bible, because someone said it and wrote it down. But I don't believe this person who experienced this and wrote a book on it or appeared on TV. And there just seems to be a huge disconnect there that they're using the same thought process. And I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not dissing. I'm just saying if it applies to one, it really applies to the other because it's the same thought process.
Well, okay. I'm going to go along with what you said, and I'm going to add on just a little bit. Being that we live out here in the Bible Belt, and I have experienced, I homeschooled my daughter, and a lot of the people who homeschool are religious families that have lots of kids. We were in a homeschool community, and a lot of the textbooks that I bought through that community were textbooks that were based on religion, including science books, which were based on the Bible, which my experience, and I'm going off of my personal experience, is that sometimes people who are heavily religious don't put a whole lot of stock in scientific evidence.
True.
That's my experience, and I'm basing that on, the science book that I bought through the homeschool network.
Well, that's true. Rejection of evolution, rejection of
a lot of things,
like that. There is a segment. Not all religious people, but there is a segment.
And so I almost have to, when I meet somebody who is, and I have friends who go from one broad, extreme spectrum, people who are very religious to people who are, don't believe in anything. So I don't want to upset or insult anybody, because I have friends all over the board. But, if I meet somebody who is super religious and they don't believe in the paranormal, or they think, one of my friends said to me that this is, anything that we are doing is dealing with the devil, and we shouldn't be messing with anything. What we do, the paranormal investigations, so we're all dealing with the devil, and we shouldn't be doing anything that we are doing because we're just empowering Satan.
Although the Bible talks about ghosts, and Jesus talked about ghosts.
Exactly, but people come from their own.
Well, their
own place.
That's very true. But it's, and I think the thing is, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, because I think there are believers that are just as closed-minded to things as some skeptics, that it's keeping that open mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to do, and, suspending disbelief. It's like watching a fantasy movie. You suspend disbelief for that.
Right.
And, if you can suspend your disbelief as you're experiencing something, as you are reviewing something, as you are considering someone else's experience, I think if you can at least get to the point that it's possible, or this person isn't lying, or at least they don't have to be lying.
Right.
Then that's a step towards scientific endeavor.
Right.
And, I think that's the fundamental of the scientific method, is you have to disregard prior beliefs and just look at what's in front of you. Mm-hmm. And that's something that by nature is kind of hard for humans to do.
It is. And, my daughter is the most scientifically minded person. Mm-hmm. Everything has to have a reason. Like you said, it's the scientific method behind everything. But she's scared to death when she goes on investigations with us. Mm-hmm. So she...
But she's also had experiences that she can't reconcile, and she knows there's something going on.
Right.
And I think that's the lesson, is how, social media and the internet and everything has created, everyone's an expert on everything. But when you experience something, it's different than hearing about it. And
right.
She's experienced it, so now she's saying, okay, I can't explain it with science. I can't explain it with just belief either. And so now I have to evaluate it. And I think that's the biggest lesson, is people jump to conclusions. Oh, it's a hoax. Oh, someone's faking this. Someone's trying to make money or whatever. But we all know there are places that strange things happen.
Yes.
There's hauntings that go back hundreds of years in not only America, but in Europe, etc. Mm-hmm. And so we can't always explain why, but something's going on. Someone who saw an apparition in an English castle 800 years ago isn't any different than someone who's seeing it now.
Right.
They may ascribe it to different things, but...
And, I lost a friend a few years ago who was a Cherokee Indian. His grandfather was the chief of the tribe in South Carolina. And when he passed, he was killed in a car wreck. He was a very young man. It was extremely sad. But First of all, if you've ever gone to a Native American funeral, it is very heart-wrenching. The way that they do their singing, they do like that grief song, drumming, it's extremely moving. But one of their beliefs is you cannot say the name of that person for at least a year, because they're afraid if you say their name, you'll call them back.
Oh.
And so they have to go on their journey. They have to find their way to where they're going after they pass. And if by saying their name, you interfere with that, they'll turn around and say that somebody, is looking for them. Mm-hmm. And so, you're not supposed to say their name for a year after they pass. And, I'm very, very, very close with this young man's uncle. Mm-hmm. And this was, maybe 5-6 years ago that he passed. He still says my nephew. He still will not say his name. And, it just, so the native culture themselves, and another person who I was really good friends with was a Mayan priestess, Miss Beatrice, down in Belize. And when she baptized my daughter, she said when I was pregnant, she said pregnant women would not go to funerals, they would not go to cemeteries, and they would not bring infants around dying people, dead people, anything like that, because they were afraid that the spirit of the dying person or the dead would go into the infant or the fetus. And
interesting.
So we're talking extremely old cultures that go back thousands of years that believe in the spirit world. Mm-hmm. And we know that Native Americans and, Native cultures believe in the spirit world. Those are my two experiences where, I've had Native people explain to me their beliefs. And, hey, I believe in that stuff, because if they believe it for thousands and thousands of years and that's what they do, I'm not messing with that. I am not bringing my baby near a dead person because, I don't want that to happen. But, they believe it very strongly. So,
well, I think we're going to have to end here because I'm going to have to go off to our other location.
Yeah, we do have another event tonight.
So we appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening, and we should be back next week with a new topic, and we hope everyone has a good week and happy ghost hunting. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.